sure. I'm promise I could take care of it. Give me $5. You ready to start?
Yes.
All right. Welcome into We Gon Figure It Out. Today, let me just start on this. There we go. Welcome into We Gon Figure It Out, and I am Andrew Morgan. It's my wife, Regina Morgan. And today, there we go. Today we're going to do a show, and we're going to talk about a few different subject matters, but we're also going to give you an update. What do you want to do? You want to start with the update first?
Sure.
Or subject?
Doesn't matter to me. I'm flexible.
Easy like Sunday morning. Huh? Yeah. So one of the updates, because we always want to remind everyone that we feel like everyone who says that they like live their life, for Christ, they live their life on mission to some extent, like on your workplace, all those different things. For us, we were called away from home, away from work, all the things we were comfortable with, and we were told to come here. And so part of our journey is living life here. And so this week we've been able to do a few extra things to get used to the idea of living here.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the number one things that we've done that we wanted to do was take a hike. So
Yes.
we were able to link up with Lauren, who I used to work with in Tulsa.
Right.
And so she was like my search and rescue partner for a couple of years, I think, maybe. And it was fun. We went on a hike and basically learned a whole lot, about just how beautiful things are. We survived. Yeah. The hardest part of it was not the walk, because it was an easy hike. Ish. It was.
They have really long legs and I have really short legs, so I always fell behind. Everybody was like taller than me, so
Yeah.
Braden and I were like trailing behind, and the terrain was pretty rocky. So, I mean, it wasn't a bad hike, but it was just something that I wasn't used to. And
it was it was just rocks to some extent.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't even like really, really bad, but
right.
a few holes here and there that twist your ankle if you weren't paying attention.
And I did do something to my ankle. It's still a little sore.
So we went, and the hardest part was actually driving off, like once the road turned into rocks, which like that was the hardest part, the off-roading part. And it wasn't really off-roading. So like when you think about it, there's so many other adventures that we have to have where it's going to be worse than that. Like we had it easy. They filled all the big holes.
Yeah.
So
it was. And it was a lot of dust for some reason.
You couldn't see around the corner because the rocks were kicking up dust and the sun was beaming right at the right time when we were leaving. So leaving was hard. Coming in was hard because, man, I'm sweating. I'm still thinking about being there. Under these lights, it gets hot. But yeah, it was a pretty good adventure. The kids got a chance to play in the river.
The water was beautiful. You could see clear down to the bottom.
Yeah.
I love that part of it because you could see everything. I mean, and nothing could come up and like sneak up on you or anything like that. You could see clear down to the bottom of where the rocks were.
So the big thing was like just the adventure, just the pure adventure of just like seeing something beautiful. Another thing we did this week was we went out on the Columbia River
on a boat ride,
which was really, really good. For me, it was, I enjoyed it outside of the obvious motion sickness that I get, because that ruins everything.
Yeah.
So it's like, for me, roller coasters are fun. I just don't like the factor that it's like, oh, I'm going to be sick for the next 3 days.
He has really bad vertigo.
And so.
But for me, I had a blast. I was laughing, and Braden and I sat in the front and was getting splashed, and it was fun.
Yeah. I think the hardest part for me was like really just letting go and allowing God to just show me his beauty. Because you could say that you believe in God's beauty and you see it everywhere, but then when you're like faced with the large, just who he is, when you see it, it's like, it's crazy. Because for me, I'm looking and I'm seeing this boat just jump up and down, and I'm like thinking to myself, like I'm gripping really tight because I'm like, I don't want to die, And then it was just like, as I'm praying, God was just talking back to me, just like, like your hands aren't meant to grip and hold on to this that bad. So like once I let go of the grip and started to kind of enjoy everything, like I said, it wasn't a promise that motion sickness wasn't going to come or the wind would stop.
Right.
I really, the perspective shift that I had in the middle of that was that it was a very, very hot day. It was one of the first hot days we've had here.
Yeah.
And the wind needed to blow to cool people off.
Mm-hmm.
But here I am on the river wanting the wind to stop so that I won't have motion sickness. and my perspective shifted right then to just being more grateful and just saying, you know what? Let the wind blow if it means someone else is cooled off. Let the wind blow if it means that it's going to benefit someone else.
Right.
And I'll be all right. You know, at the end of the day, I know God's got me, but there's someone who needs this gust of wind right now coming off the river. So for me, I was really, really excited about it. After a while, like I said, I just couldn't control the sickness. Yeah.
For me, I think the perspective that I got from it was take in nature, take in God's beauty, and those are free things. We didn't have to pay for those things. We didn't have to pay for the hike. We didn't have to pay for getting on a boat ride. Thankful for friends like Lauren and Fred and Suzanne who allowed our kids to experience something that otherwise they wouldn't be able to. So being able to, get out on a boat and get on the water and take a hike, because there's not places like that in Oklahoma, in our vicinity anyway. And so, so that was fun, and it was good to just take in nature. I did a lot of praying as I was walking and just talking to God and seeking Him and seeing, what's the next steps and what's the next things that we need to do. And so it was just good to there was no phone service, so
that was
I loved it
parts.
Because the kids had no choice but to be engaged in what we were doing and to look at beauty and to pick up rocks and to try to skip rocks and to try to, to swim in the river and, just take in the beauty of it all. And so that was the best part for me.
And they get along with nature in that way. Like they don't mind exploring. And I think that's my issue, is that sometimes as a parent, I'm always looking to see like, well, how are they getting along with this? Are they scared? Are they nervous? And it's like they're touching stuff.
Yeah.
Like Braden was like, is that a snake? And goes hand first into it. And I'm like, who does that, dude? No, if it's a snake, my first thought is we back away from snakes.
Right.
But those are the experiences that we want them to have that we may never get, that we may not have had growing up. And so that's the part that I'm really proud of more than anything, is that we gave them the opportunity to have some of the things that we haven't had. So that's an update on what we've been doing as far as expanding our mindset and seeing this. And it's hard sometimes to make it make sense to other people, like in the sense that it's like, well, it sounds like you're just living there. I think every aspect of what we're experiencing and what we're doing, we're dedicating our life and our heart to doing God's work, and we're trying to find new ways to minister and ways
and connect. And because I did get a chance to really talk with Lauren and encourage and things like that. And so I just take every opportunity as a time to encourage and use the gifting that God has given me, to inspire others. And so
on another positive note of what's going on with us lately is that our oldest son has had like one of the best weeks he could have asked for.
Yeah.
And it's funny, the perspective, like you have to really sit back as an adult and let kids kind of do things and not try to force your thoughts on them too much, because he was really getting discouraged about the job thing.
Yeah,
and I
was.
just kept giving advice here and there. And as he followed it, it wasn't about him following it in my timing, but every time he followed it, one step led to another one and another one. And so he passed his driver's test, which was like by the skin of his teeth, but he passed it. So that was a good thing. And then after passing his driver's test, one of the things that was really, really good was that he turned around and was able to get a job at JCPenney's, which was even better because it's part-time, it's perfect, it's right up the alley of what I really wanted for him as a father.
And it also gave him a desire of his heart. He did not want to work in fast food.
Yeah.
And so, God gives the desires of the heart to the young too,
Yeah. As parents, you can be hypercritical of that. And I think we adapt that nature from like even the generation before. We always want our kids to, we always use these different ways to kind of try to humble them. And it's like, that's still God's place. And it's like, we have to always remember, like, God will appoint them and do what he's supposed to do with them as he does it. But for me, it was just like, dude, I worked it. You ain't too good to work it or whatever.
Me too.
And it's like, but when I was younger, I remember thinking to myself, and asking God for certain things. Like, I don't want my kids to have, I want them to have better experiences than me.
Mm-hmm.
But then I sometimes I get upset when they don't have the tough experiences that I had. But it's like, they don't need to have them.
They don't need to have them.
That was never even why, after going through it, it was like, I never want my kids to go through this.
Yeah.
And now, maybe he will never go through that. Maybe he won't work fast food. Maybe he'll always be on the path vocationally that he chooses.
Yeah.
Which is a path very similar to mine. I'm never, outside of that initial job at McDonald's, which I wanted when I wanted it,
mm-hmm.
I've never, I've always been able to pick what I wanted to do.
Right.
And so that's one of the key factors with what we're going through with like fundraising and financially, really just always relying on God to have our daily bread. Like, we ultimately have the greatest stability we can have because we have faith that God is going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if my faith was found in, I know I worked and I'm going to get a paycheck in 2 weeks, that's not as stable as every day petitioning and just asking God to give us our daily bread, relying on the saints to come, to step up and give and donate and help us out. That's actually, if we do our due diligence, mm-hmm. that's a more stable place than even, I would say, doing things in a mainstream route.
Right.
It doesn't feel that way all the time. It's easily preached.
Yeah.
Like, it was easy for me to just say that, but some days it's very, very difficult.
Very difficult. Yeah.
And so the good thing about Navon getting a job is it relieved him of the pressure because he sees it. Mm-hmm. And I think that a lot of the pressure that he was putting himself under to get a job had a lot to do with him wanting to contribute and help out to the cause. Yeah. Like, he didn't want to feel like he was a hindrance to it.
Right.
He's like, okay, well, if they're gonna stay and stick to their guns and believe God on what they told him, then let me be able to do something for myself.
Right.
And I think he feels bad when he has those times when it's like, well, driving school costs this. Well, AP testing costs this, and these scholarships I gotta apply for is gonna cost that.
Yeah.
And he wants to be able to do some of those things independently.
Yeah.
And I think
that's a
blessing.
great, I was going to say, that's a beautiful mindset to have because that shows a maturing, and it's not, well, y'all had me, y'all need to do this, y'all need to, but it's a part of growing up and realizing that, you become responsible for yourself at some point.
I was under so much panic a couple of years ago when I started thinking all 3 of these kids are going to graduate and each one of them going to have fees and dues and all these different things is going to be, hitting us. And I look at responsibility that Nyla stepped up and kind of took, and we did pay some fees, and I know Marshawn paid a lot of fees and different things in there, but for the most part she worked for those fees to cover those things, and graduation kind of came and gone, and it was like, oh, we're still standing, and it'll be the same thing next time.
We have back to back, so Navon this year and then Neairra the following year.
So it for me, once again, it's just like, okay, this is where we are. We're in a position where everything is going to work itself out just fine. Like, I'm not concerned or worried about how things are going to work out in that area. And I'm very proud that, like he's wanting to step up, and Neairra went back home for the summer. And that was, it was like she had a total different, every year you could just see the evolution into her becoming a free thinker.
Yeah.
And a challenging thinker for the world. And the world needs people who challenges the status quo.
She definitely challenges.
And so I love just seeing her development. And so that's a good, that's a good place for her to be. Mm-hmm. And so Braden is going on an adventure, which is going to be one of the more difficult things for us here and there, is that he's going to be gone back to Tulsa, for an extended amount of time for the summer.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why I say it's going to be challenging is because you go through the personal, I miss him around. Then you go through how do you discipline from distance? Letting go, letting things happen and seeing things go on. And it's just like you want to make sure he's still doing what he's supposed to do. Yeah. He's being the best him he can be. And all those things combined is just like, okay, how do we keep him, how do we take care of him?
Yeah.
And this is one of those first real tests of just like, you just let go.
Yeah.
And you let God protect and keep him and watch out for him while he's, 2,000 miles away. It was different when he was like, oh, he's in Kansas City with mama. Or he's up the street at your mama's house.
Yeah.
This is 2,000 miles away, so this is different.
So he had to get on a flight. Him and his sister today got on a flight, and he's now headed back to Tulsa with his Mimi, and Neairra's back in Texas. So Navon is here by himself.
Yeah.
This has been a first for us. We've never had Navon alone, I don't think.
No, not for this amount of time.
Yeah. It's just funny how our family dynamic changes from year to year. You know, sometimes we'll have Neairra, you know, or sometimes it'll be just Braden. And now it's just Navon, you know, or just sometimes it was Nyla and Neairra. You know, it's just funny how as the years go, things just change and we just adapt and grow with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, we're gonna get into we gave everyone a lot of updates, but I think a lot of people who listen and watch these videos are people who know us and love us and want to know what's going on with us. And so we wanted to knock that out the way first, but I think for us, this topic that we're going to talk about is kind of a check-in for where I'm at with a lot of things. And that's feeling as though there's a lot on the table and making sure that I'm not spreading things too thin.
Yeah.
And really just seeing the potential for greatness in so many different areas, but feeling like I'm always falling short or not getting the opportunity to complete yet.
Yeah.
And things are still going good, but just having that frustration, that overwhelming frustration. Because for me, I'm an idea person, so I'm always adding to a project, and it's hard to just leave it where I left it, like where it needs to be left. You kind of see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Especially in a structure where, like, if I was at work and I wrote something up and I handed it to my boss and he said, okay, I'll take it from here, then I'm okay with letting it go because my job was completed. Now, working independently, when I come up with these ideas, it's like either don't execute them, don't try to execute them at all and just sit on them and wait.
Yeah.
Or leave it, or try to do all of it. And the resources aren't always there to do everything, and it just gets to a point where it starts to cause frustration because it feels like, man,
I can't get anything done.
Like everything, it's so much to do that I'm not getting enough done.
But I think you are, though. I mean, and I know that we struggle with our own insecurities on how we do things or our lack thereof on things that we get done, but I just see you doing so much, you know. And so, like you said, maybe it could be too many irons in the fire at once, but I think that's what God has called you to do. He's put people and things in place of you every day, and so it's meant for you to start these these different tasks, and they'll come to completion when it's time.
Yeah, each one. Yeah, I feel, and that's the other side of it. It's like I feel a certain level of confidence that really tells me that it's like I don't really have to worry. Like I'm not in a bad place. You know, where some people this could drive them insane. I'm not comfortable with it, but on the same token, I'm not worried in the back of my mind. Like I know I'm meeting and doing, you know, I'm hitting the right meetings, talking to the right people, doing the right stuff.
Yeah.
But it's still a little bit of a difficult process.
I mean, it's just not traditional. You know what I mean? I think that's the thing. We've been ingrained to work. Both of you and I have been working since we were in our mid-teens. And so I think with that being said, it's everything looks different. You know, every connection is different now. It's not the same 9 to 5. You're doing this for this deadline. You're doing this for this person, you know, this part for this person. Or you, like you said, you've completed your portion of it and you're passing it on. Everything is just different. Everything is about us getting it done. And so I think that's where I guess the anxieties may come in because it just looks different.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's really all I have to say about that. I wanted to, it's more depth to it, but to be honest with you, the energy is not in this conversation for me to like take it 50 steps deeper. You know what I'm saying? It's just, it is what it is. Sometimes it's just, you just keep pushing and it's okay to just, it's not even so much, I don't even feel like a lament. Like I'm not complaining. It's just sometimes you just have to say it because truthfully, I wouldn't take anything back. I do have to, like, everything that I'm doing, I need to do.
Yeah.
That's the big issue too, that it's like I'm not adding in anything extra. All of these things aren't even enough.
Yeah.
Like that's and I'm not even talking from a provision standpoint. I'm talking from a creative standpoint. Like not even like, well, is it? Of course, it's not bringing in enough money, but it's not. It's just a matter of, is it even challenging me creatively the way that it should? And it's not about the content itself not challenging me. It's about my own drive and will to take it to the next level. Because next level means for me, next level means that I would abandon some of the things that I don't want to abandon. Like, I know that there's not enough time in a day to get the skills sharpened and the time set that I want to get them sharpened. Like, I need to study more, but on the same token, I've got this presentation in front of me that says, well, you're in a do mode with this.
Yeah. So
And
you got to be
now,
doing.
Yeah. So for me, it's like, I guess this is the best way to sum it up. I view myself here, but in order to get the things done that's on my plate now, I have to operate here. And so operating at 50% and seeing the potential for 100% not being potent is frustrating. Like, I really want to reach and operate at 100.
Yeah.
Especially had operated in 100 before in different phases in my life.
Maybe
and I know
more than 100.
Yeah, and I know that time will get me there, but I think that's my biggest frustration now. It's just like, I know I can be a better editor. I know that I can put together better videos. Even with the scripture of the day, everything with the business, with both of our businesses, it could be done on a more excellent and higher scale. And I have allowed, and I think the frustration is, I feel like I've allowed apathy in certain areas in order to survive the day. And I don't want to survive the day anymore. Like, I want to operate at my full capacity. And if that means ruffling feathers, not getting the full amount of, like R&R that I think I might deserve or whatever, just really going after it and being more bold, that's what I want to do. But I do also know that realistically, there is a cost that comes with that type of all-in behavior.
Yeah.
You lose family. You lose friends. You lose a certain peace of mind when you operate in 100. And that's the other place. See, even though I said I didn't want to take the conversation deeper, it goes deeper. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can't help it. It is a deeper conversation.
But I think the good thing about it is that you are expressing it, just talking it out, talking through it, because it's something that you're wrestling with in your mind.
Yeah.
And so you have to voice those things and get it out, because if you don't, then it's just going to continue to, eat away at you. And
one of the things that, like, I watched this webinar the other day from this guy who was selling his photography media business. Like, he's selling all of these tutorials to you. And I'm watching it, and there's a certain privilege that he was able to show that frustrated me. That, like, he was like, I did all this on my own. I built it from here to there. And then he goes back and he tells the story, and it's this one little hiccup where he's just like, so I was a college student. I invested my last $1,000 in a T2i Canon. And remember, I used to have that one. And he's like, and it was the newest thing. He said, but I knew in order to take my videos to the next level, I needed this camera. That's kind of where I'm at, right? And he talks about these $6,000, $8,000 cameras. So he goes to his dad and he borrows the money from his dad. But then he hustles and he gets it back.
Yeah.
And he pays his dad back within like a couple of years. He's able to give his dad all of it back and some, which is great. But the privilege of having that generational wealth to be able to say, hey, here you go. That goes beyond race lines to some extent.
Yeah.
So I don't want to just say it's just a white privilege or anything. But the privilege of that is a privilege I want to be able to give our children that I feel like right now we're not able to, but hopefully when they start to pursue their dreams and really like get out of college, we'll be in a position where we can kind of provide some of those things, because this is one of the most frustrating things. And I can spiritualize it and say, well, I got my Heavenly Father and I can always ask him for it. And I do. But that's one of the things I need to start doing, is being more specific about saying, I need this, I need that. And I also need to work hard with what I do have.
Yeah.
To kind of just not prove to God, but just even prove to myself that I'm not going to get better stuff and then just let it sit.
Right.
So.
Yeah. It's good.
All right. Well, you want to talk about something else?
I just kind of wanted to say just kind of what I've been feeling as far as the whole fundraising, all of these things that are going on, and just the place that we are in. And I haven't spoke much about it. I've kind of been more silent and allowed you to speak more on it, but I'm getting the strength to, just come forth and say how I've been feeling. And so for me, it's been more so like a struggle, really, as far as accepting the place that we are in, because it's been a long time since we've been there. And so I think I guess my thing is I don't want people looking at us like we're not doing anything, or we're not working hard, or we're not trying, or we're and I know it doesn't make sense. I know that the journey doesn't make sense, but it's not meant to make sense to anybody outside of us. We know what God has called us to do, and we know that He called us to come here and to do whatever it is that He's having us doing. Right now, it's the Naturally Beautiful Project. Right now, it's Seeing God's Beauty Media. Right now, it's doing hair and affecting lives in that way, and meeting and conferences. And we got a lot of irons in the fire. But I just hope that people see the Christ in us and see that we are following His path. And I can't convince people of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it has to be something that,
that's just the Holy Spirit's job.
Exactly. And so I think that is the reason why I have been silent and hadn't really had much to say, because it is on a different scale. And I think I hyped up things so much in the beginning, and I was so excited and so exuberant, and, and all of these things. And I'm wondering if people are judging me. And I'm just being honest. Like, this is complete transparency. I feel like, people are judging, and nobody said anything to me or done anything like that.
That's the weirdest thing. You have all those feelings and thoughts.
Exactly. And none of these things have been confirmed, but that is just how I feel, because that's human nature. People look at things and they're like, well, what are they doing? Well, why did they move? Well, why did they do this? Why did they pack up all of their things? Why did they spend all of the savings that they had? Why did they do, And so I think me just speaking this out is just a way for me to release that. Just kind of like what you just did. It's just a way for me to release the power of it in my mind. Does that make sense?
It does, because,
And so I think that's all I wanted to say, is just that I'm hoping that people hang in there with us.
Yeah.
And see it to the end, or however long it goes while we're here. And I've said before, I don't believe this is our final stopping place. I think that from now on, our lives are made to live on mission in different spots and different places. And I don't know where God is going to take us next or when He's going to do it. But I just hope that people, when they give and when they think about things, they're not looking at it from a pity standpoint, but from, I see what God is doing through them and with them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I definitely want people to always look at it from that perspective of like, from the perspective of, let me just obey what the Spirit's telling me. Like, even if I personally have the money and I just want to give it to Him, but if God didn't say it, then I don't want that curse. Like, I don't want that, like, I want you to operate the way that you're supposed to operate. And for me, I would love to wake up every day, and that's one of the problems with the frustration of overthinking.
Yes.
Is that both of us are in a place of overthinking.
Mm-hmm.
And when you overthink, it's funny, like, typically you think a person who's overthinking is overthinking, but they're not working hard enough.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I feel like we can work hard enough. There's this reality that I do know that we have a drive, that we feel like we see where we could be working harder. And because we know where we could do something a little bit harder, we assume that other people are possibly doing it. And that's where it's like I need to shift my perspective from being one that says, what do I think about myself and what do people think about myself? And only solely put it in a place of, well, what is God saying about me?
Yeah.
And that perspective only comes through fasting and prayer.
Yeah.
The only way you'll be able to drive out that hate that lives within, that spirit that's kind of just locked up within you, beating you up, tossing you around, is to really just consecrate yourself to God and just say, okay, I really need to know what you say about me. I really need to know this power and authority that you've given me. I really need to know these things, because if you don't know them, there's no way that you ever graduate to that place where you absolutely have peace in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons why I said we have to make our life more simple. It's one of the reasons why it wasn't a money issue, because I believe that a part of the money that we're able to receive will cover all the needs, that are around here. But in part of that, not, I cut the cable off not because, it's a money thing and what would it look like, because we do fundraising for a lot of things to have this, and this is a luxury. I didn't care about that. I didn't cut it off for that reason. I cut off because I recognized that
it's a distraction.
And taking it to the real level that really kind of crossed my mind, it's where our idols lie. It's where all of our little false Jesuses were. It's like, you know what, I'm mad, let's cut on NBA TV. You know what, I'm mad, let's go to free movies. You know what, I don't want to deal with things. This is a quicker way for me to just binge something on Netflix and not talk to anybody for a while. And so even though there are like the entertainment sources there, as long as the cable's there, you tend to come to TV to relax and sit down for a minute, even if you end up at Netflix or Hulu. And so for me, it's like, all right, I have to eliminate that. And the cool thing is, yes, it does save money.
Yeah.
But it's like, but if you want your family to read books, if you want your family to be closer and talk to each other, then eliminate those other things. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so living a more simplistic life is our goal, to really just get rid of the distractions and start calling them out for what they are. Start calling out the things that have become idols. Even with our food, I've been always one to use the old school method of I ain't gonna say it's old school. I used to use the method that was similar to people who may have not had a lot of money and may have said, okay, well, I'm going to go to the grocery store as soon as I get my food stamps or something, or as soon as I get paid on the 1st and 15th. And I'm going to load down the refrigerator and do it that way. Well, for me, that leaves you open to live, to eat, to survive.
Yeah.
Opposed to live to, and to eat, or to eat to nourish your body. It's like the hypocrisy of eating fast food and saying, let this food be nourishment for my body for Christ's sake. It's like, really? Then throw this away if you want it to be nourishment for your body. And so I think, I had to address on like my Instagram TV, I had to address a question last week that Rochelle had asked. She was like, well, what's going on with Andrew's face? Why is it so pudgy? And it's because of an extreme weight gain, which was a very large giant for me to have to conquer. Because every day I do the scripture of the day, and it's almost like they let me hurry up and get in and out kind of thing. That's not why I only do a minute. I do a minute because that's what people got to listen. But yeah, it's avoiding it because there were so many men that I tried to help guide through a more healthier lifestyle.
Yeah.
And the shame that looms over you, it's like what you were talking about. You know that they're talking about you. You know they're waiting to criticize you and say something, because there was always tension between me and my guys, because it's like I was pulling them out of their apathy and they hated me for it, because it was like, you got to exercise, you got to do this, you got to do that. And then I moved here, and then all of a sudden I'm in this place just like they were. When they would leave me, it was like, well, I'm kind of getting adjusted to new life. And then they come back and visit me 2 months later, and they've got pudgy face. And so for me, it's been a year since we made this decision, and I've really just tailed off of my fitness program over the course of this year.
Yeah.
And as a result, I look up and I'm 25 pounds heavier.
Are you that much?
Yeah. And I've always secretly carried my weight well. Like, like where it's always been a thing where it's like, you don't change regardless. You know what I'm saying? Like, you would have to.
Until you look back at pictures, and then
exactly.
it's like, no.
Yes. Yeah, that's the big thing. It's like, so if you were to like take a look at all the scriptures of the day and just scroll them, it's like, oh my God, yes, he has. You know, it goes from like these defined cheekbones, like to where you could see my facial structure, to all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, he did get a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
You know, and so yeah, I went from like 180 around this time last year, to where my body fat percentage was in the high teens, to now I don't even do the body fat percentage, but it's 205 now.
Aww.
So it is what it is. I'm going to work my way back.
I mean, you are.
You know,
I've seen you doing it.
Yeah. It just takes time. But I bring all that up just to say that it's like, when it comes to food, when it comes to everything, we just got to restructure and move out of the season that we were in, because we had a little bit of culture shock. We had a lot of different things going. And now it's just time for us to get more serious about our mission and make sure that if we're staying more focused on our mission, that we're not ignoring the other things. So that's where it's like that overwhelming feeling of like, don't forget anything.
Yeah.
But
also add these things in.
Yeah. But with God, I know he'll give us the strength to be able to remember all those things, to do all the things. There were some things he gave us provision on. Like, you know, I'm so glad that we paid for 2 years of a gym membership.
Yeah.
So in August, that doesn't, expire.
Right.
Like, we have another year to get right.
And some of the things that I'm thankful for is, you know, everything in the house is paid for. You know, the beds,
yeah, we don't have to go to rent.
The furniture, the washing machine and dryer. You know, those things. I feel like we did steward the money properly. It just ran out faster than I had hoped, and that was having to travel back.
Start a business.
Start businesses, you know, invest in things, and, you know, it takes money to make money.
Well, Sam Pressey quotes Tribe Called Quest when he says, "Scared money don't make money."
Oh.
Yeah. Sam Pressey quotes Tribe Called Quest. So apparently, like, Phife Dawg was the reasoning behind us getting Paul George.
Wow.
Scared money don't make money.
Okay.
So that's that's one way of looking at it.
We've been in here for a long time.
Yes, it is time for us to go.
But you know, thank you for the person who's watching. Go back and watch the beginning and just kind of hear our update. And
I'll post it again. This doesn't do it where you can watch it right away. But yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well, you know, because I know it says the video is not available. Go back and watch or whatever, right?
No, these don't. That's what I was saying. Well, I'll explain it later.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But I forgot what I was saying now. I don't know. I was thinking I was getting ready to make a good point, but it doesn't matter.
All right. We done?
Yeah.
All right. We see you guys next week.